Don't have a formal presentation. We're just going to go through pictures over the years and ask me questions as we go. Make it easier for me than trying to just fumble my way through this. This isn't a comfort zone for me at all up here doing this, so I kind of do. So this, the first slide, we started back in 2019. I kind of just put up most of these slides with the crop or all the years we had challenges, severe droughts. 2019 we had a severe drought in 2019, if you can think back then. Things have changed since then. This is a non-GMO crop that we grew there. I forget how much rain we had that year. It was next to nothing.
4 inches
yeah.
From April to end of August.
Yeah, okay, that's right there. Okay, so 4 inches of rain. This is what we grew with 4 inches of rain. But here we had no covers in there right now, in there. And I think at that time we're using about 100 pounds of N there. That crop took 100 pounds of N to grow, which some people is not very high, but it's now we're down to 0. But right now, almost, we're going to put on some foliar. This was when we were chopping it, so this is after a frost or whatever. Yeah, so this was taken, would have been October. What's that?
Did you grow in the years prior to that?
This would have been monoculture corn. This is on rented land. It's year to year. Would have been corn. Let me think. Would have been this probably been third year of corn on this rented land. I rent from an older lady, and she says, I don't know if I'm going to be alive next year, so you only get it for 1 year. But she's going to be 90 next year, and she's still going here. So we're still renting the land or whatever. But so that's kind of why we were growing corn and stuff there. So it's, yeah. So you maybe switch it to the next one, and we'll see where.
But if you think about like the progression of when you started growing corn.
Yeah.
Like what was the first change that you made? Was kind of maybe going to like no-till?
Yeah, okay, that's one thing. This corn was this land had been no-tilled for 3 years. I think we got it 19, probably just the second year. I think we got it in 18. This would have been just 2 years with no tillage. We've never tilled that rented land since we've had it. So that would have had no-till. So on the principle, that's about the only principle this one had, was basically no-till, right? It was a monoculture. And
about the progression over since 19 to today, like so no-till was the first step.
Yeah.
And then second step would be
while we cut back in fertilizer, and then as we go, we'll get the soybeans in there and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the point is, you don't maybe do it all the first year. It's
a progression. Yeah, kind of learned, and then we went to a.
Do you want to comment on why you switched to non-GMO corn?
Well, I guess the big thing is cost savings. For one thing, you don't have to pay the royalties. It's like 40 some bucks a bag, different.
What about your mineral deficiencies?
Yeah, okay, so you want to talk about glyphosate? Yeah, we had a big issue back in when we got this feedlot in 2015. Had a big pile of corn silage. Our cows had never seen corn silage before in their life, and so we're feeding them this corn silage, and come about March, we had cows starting to abort. Whoa, what's going on here? So I did a bunch of research and kind of looking at things, but we sent a calf sample away, right, to see what's going on, and it comes back very deficient in cobalt, manganese, in vitamin A. Was that it? Were the three major things? Yeah, the major things. So I'm thinking, why? So first I go after my mineral guy. I'm mad at him because we're feeding it in the mix wagon. They're getting every day. Mineral you're selling me is no good. And so we sent it away to the labs, and they were fairly close to what it should be. So got thinking, so I go on the internet, and like GMO in the corn, like that shouldn't hurt them. And then I get, only other thing is we spray it with Roundup, but it's only this tall when we last sprayed it. Well, how's that gonna hurt it? So I'm going through, and I kind of stumble across this thing. It says pregnant women cannot transfer for vitamin A to their fetus if they're exposed to glyphosate. Oh, these cows, the calves are deficient in glyphosate. So, but I said, how can there be glyphosate in there? So we sent a test away to the lab, and anything over 1 part per million, I think, you can have trouble. Like with the chickens they do and stuff, eh? It's 1 part per million or billion, I'm not sure. But we sent it away, and it was 5 parts per million. So there was enough in there to cause problems. And then we seen, what was her name? Stephanie, she was doing a presentation on glyphosate. Yes. Yeah, she was doing a presentation on glyphosate, how it can tie up minerals. And on her slide there, she had the main ones that ties up and stuff was cobalt, manganese, and vitamin A. Bingo. Right with these cows were aborting and losing their calves to. I guess I should have started with, you should know what glyphosate is. I don't know. Do you know what the molecule was developed for? Does anyone know what? No, actually what glyphosate is a metal chelator developed in 1959. It was to clean hot water pipes. It binds to metal. It just cleans a hot water pipe out. So that's why it ties up metal in these cattle. And Monsanto got onto it in '67 because they found out where they threw all this stuff out where they cleaned the pipes out, it killed all the vegetation. So Monsanto got it, and I think they started marketing it in '74. And it's actually not even licensed as a herbicide. It's an antibiotic. It's an antimicrobial. So that's why it screws up everything. So that's Pam's question was, why did we go away from, we try not to spray. Now we have, our corn now is it's kind of more in the toolbox, but we do use glyphosate, but at a limiting factor because we know it does cause problems. We had big problems with it because it was tying the minerals up in the fetus of those calves and making those cows abort.
We even tested our straw and it was in the high glyphosate.
Yeah, like our cows eat a lot of straw, half their diet is straw. And it's hard, like they eat a lot of canola straw and stuff, and it's all desiccated. But we try and everything we try to get it down in their diet, but these cows, we were feeding them almost straight corn silage, right? And it was just too much for them. They were aborting the calves. So that's why we went to non-GMO that year.
So we're
basically.
not saying quit using glyphosate?
No.
But understand that like it's a powerful tool, but it can have like negative unintended consequences to the plant, to the soil, to the animal, to our own. Like you can show some interesting correlations between the increased use of glyphosate, right? It's been the most used herbicide in the history of agriculture now, like starting in the 70s, but really getting going in the early 90s. And so the curve of glyphosate use is something like that, right? It's just like a rocket ship now. But guess what? The curve for autoimmune disorders, fertility, cancer, on and on, right? All these curves seem to interestingly correlate. You can't necessarily show causation, but there's correlation there. So we just need to be smart about the use of that herbicide.
What do you use then?
Well, right, we did a burn off just before we seeded it. Like I say, now it is GMO corn again, and you can get caught some years where before we grew the covers is you'll get a flush of wild millet and you can't do nothing about it. Or you can use Sortan or something, and it's like $30 an acre or something like that. But it's just another tool in the toolbox. But we just got to remember, I know people will go out and spray corn 3 times regardless if it needs it or not, right? So, we just got to remember there is an impact when we do it, right? So,
like in GMO crops, if you're potentially doing like a pre-seed burn-off plus 2 in-crop applications plus desiccation, like 3-4 applications a year, if you can start to go from that to like once every couple of years, that's a huge improvement, right? Just,
Yeah.
yep.
Well,
You're
there.
still using a hybrid corn though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How hard is it for you to find a non-GMO hybrid?
Not real hard. Some of the varieties we do use, like we use a real high heat unit corn, like 2850 is what we're growing up here. That's what that would be. That'd be like 2850. And they got that same variety. I think this is 8755, I think. I think this is, 875 is the conventional and 8755 is the non-conventional. It's just the same corn, but just doesn't have that trait in it, right? So, but it is harder to get, but it seems to be more in the higher heat unit corns where the non-GMOs are. There's not a lot of varieties, but there is a few. Yeah. I guess
Next.
any more? Yeah, might as well go next. We'll probably jump to 2021. Okay, you guys remember 2021? That was a real wreck, right? Dry, dry, dry. Okay, before this, we had, on this field, we had, just before we seeded this in the end of June, we had fall rye and sweet clover in there, and we silaged it in the end of June, and we got about 7 ton. And then we seeded that in the end of June, this crop here. This is a warm season, and I got some cool seasons in there. We seeded it in the end of June, but it was so dry, it never germinated. We got a rain on July 25th. It laid in the soil for a month and never germinated. Because we're only putting it in a half an inch because I got a lot of small seeds, and I don't seed, real deep. So it finally germinated the 25th of July, and by September 25th, this is what we got. We got Electra and I are standing in it. And then we got a little more rain in the end of August in. So basically in that 1 year, in that severe drought, this crop yielded 13 ton and 7. So we got 20 ton to the acre with no fertilizer. There is 0 synthetic fertilizer on this field. There was manure on it. I'm trying to think that field, about 3 years before this. So that would be the only other, synthetic. So there was 0 fertilizer. But you can see, like right here, that's pearl millet. That'd be over 7 feet tall, right? There's some sorghum Sudan grass here. You can see the oats is about this tall in here. And barley would be a little bit shorter. So that'd be like a 15-way mix. Be 7 different families in there. That field would have been no-tilled for 2021 for 6 years, I guess. It would have been an alfalfa field 3 years before, but about 3 years before that. So that's alfalfa, and then we grew corn on it. I think the year just before this one, we had a corn crop in there, and then we grew this. So. No, it would have been 2 years before this. This was its 2nd year of cover, but through the rotation of double cropping. So that'd be the example of double cropping there. Yeah, Sean.
Can you comment on just your transition to, or how you, like, where you went from fertilizer to no? Like, how did you get there?
How did we get there?
Or,
I guess.
how long did it take you?
How long? I guess since we didn't, like up at the ranch, we weren't growing any annual crops, so we weren't tilling. And then by the time we got the feedlot in 15, and by that time I got a custom seeded the first year, and then the first few years we were putting fertilizer in, like we would float the fertilizer in and then use a lambkin and put it down. And I actually noticed that our organic matter started dropping a little bit, and just kind of the tilth to the soil, just going over it once with a pro-till, like it just mutilates the soil, right? And we were growing some big crops, but the organic matter was starting to want to go backwards a little bit. So I kind of picked up on that fairly quickly, right? So what's going on here? So, and then using fertilizer like nitrogen to carbon ratio, when you're using probably 120 pounds when we first kind of started, right? So they have to balance it, the microbes in the soil, right? They got it, so they're eating carbon, like when you're giving them nitrogen in the soil, it has to go through a microbe, so they eat that and they have to balance it, so they're eating carbon, right? So that's why we kind of started going away from it.
You go 100 pounds of like corn to,
Yeah. Well, here in 19, we're about at 100, and then we went to, 110, and then 100, and then 90, and then we kept dropping, and then we were, like last year, we were 60 pounds of N. And I'll show you some slides. And this year we're 0 right now, but we're going to put a full year application down of nitrogen, and we'll talk about that a little bit later here when I get to it. So.
I remember you making the comment that, you sowed it, it sat there in the dry for a month.
Yeah.
If you had just put, say, oats.
Yeah, like a monoculture will never do what this will do. Like even in a dry year, like those deep-rooted plants, they seem to bring up water and this and that, but they just work in symbiosis with each other. Eh?
You wouldn't have had the same success.
Oh, no. I got neighbors that went out and seeded a millet at the same time. Just was nothing. It was just monoculture.
The reason this, on a dry year, lots of stress, the reason it was so successful, at least partly, was because of the diversity in the mix.
Well, that's the main key. Like you never do this with a monoculture. Not a chance. And you see that in test plots where they'll have all these monocultures, mix them, and throw them in a plot in the end, and you go and look, and all those monocultures are deficient and droughted out, nothing left there, and you go to the crop where it's all mixed, and they're thriving.
Right.
It's just there.
That's the power of diversity.
Yeah, that's power of diversity right there. But any more questions about this slide, kind of?
Well, I remember driving by that field all year. First you did your silage.
Yeah.
And everybody's trying to figure out. I could have called Sean and said, what's Clayton doing? But but everybody was driving by, and it looked dead.
Yeah.
It was dead.
Yeah. We see it.
Nothing grew, and then
it rained.
Unbelievable. That
got shot of rain.
It was absolutely amazing. It blew everybody away.
And you'll find that with getting away from synthetics and stuff, you don't have your crops on steroids anymore. And kind of when things are seeded in diversity and things are functioning, it puts its energy down into the roots first and stuff. Like instead of just putting everything into leaf growth in dark green, and as soon as the first pathogen comes along or insect, the thing falls over or you're spraying it for something. This crop is very, very resilient for any of that because it's functioning like nature meant to function. This is the way God made it, right? So we're just mimicking nature. Like that's all we're doing here. So.
Can I make one comment? We haven't done a lot of this cover crop work, but we seeded it twice on a field because just because the soil, we thought it could use that, and we put like all the turnips and stuff. But the next year we seeded oats without any fertilizer. So 2 cover crops, then a crop of oats, and it grew. Also it had some good rains, which helped, but no fertilizer, and Mom made like about almost 4 bales an acre of green tea. So, before we would have put not a lot of fertilizer, but we would have put some for sure. So it was, we really noticed that. You got to have a variable dry, if it was dry or if it was wet, but it was a tremendous crop.
It primed soil biology is what it did. Okay, it primed soil biology when you have those cover crops before.
The crop beforehand, fall rye and sweet clover, you were saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it helped. Yeah, exactly. Because back to having a living root in that soil, we were feeding it right from in April. That stuff had greened up already, right?
Your nitrogen still wasn't using up its.
Yeah.
Was at the stage where it was still at nitrogen in the ground.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. So, yeah. And that's something else, is we take everything for silage. Like, we don't leave anything. And even the people before us, like around here, that land has been, that feedlot's been there since 93, so 7. So 31 years, that thing is at everything taken off it. And we got to remember back, because we used to think building organic matter was decaying plants and stuff. But we have learnt over, it's more through root exudates, pumping into the soil through photosynthesis. We can build it a lot faster through pumping it into the soil. So that's just kind of showed you, because everyone says, well, you're taking everything off the land, so you're going to deplete it. But there has been manure put back on this land too, like once every 5 years or so. So it is coming back, but no, on top. Yeah, it's just on top, yeah. Because we're no-till. We do a little bit of tillage, but not lots. Just more if we take out a hay field and the moles have destroyed it and we can't level it, we'll do one pass of lambkin, but as shallow as it'll go, like just an inch, just to kind of level it out. You know, we try to be zero-till, but sometimes in 17 it was so wet and we silaged it, we rutted the heck out of that field. Well, we had to do something with it, right? So we went and leveled it. So we used tillage as least as possible. Yeah.
Are you compost when you take it out? Or?
No, it's well, we'll pile it in the pen sometimes a little bit, but it's not compost. It's raw. Yeah. You can. Manure can be detrimental to the soil too, because it can be high in nitrates or whatever. I like to kind of spread it on top, and everyone talking about the nitrates. Oh, you got to work in the soil. You don't want it to go up in the air. I don't want nitrates in my soil. I want my nitrogen in the amino acid form so it's available to the crop, right? And why would I want nitrates in my soil? Because nitrates, it's hard on the microbes and it's hard on our cattle. It kills the cattle because they get nitrate poisoning, right? So I don't want it in my cattle feed or in my soil. I want it in the amino acid form. So manure is probably put out, it's probably half in the organic form, which I'm talking amino acid form. It's easiest for the plants to convert it, I guess, when it's an amino acid form.
It doesn't
already.
need to be converted, it's good to go
Yeah,
straight
yeah,
in, right?
yeah. That's, I mean, just
Yeah.
kind of go straight in, because nitrate, they got to take it to ammonia, is that,
That's right.
and
So,
then they got to go.
Nitrate,
They have to go through a.
NO3, right? The plant has to strip off the oxygens and then slap on some hydrogens to make NH3, and that takes energy. That could be used to grow grain or grass, right? So that nitrate is not a preferred form of nitrogen for most plants.
Mm-hmm.
If you soil test a healthy native grassland, like, good luck finding one, but if you, even like something that's native that may not be, super healthy, and you test it for nitrogen, for nitrate, like standard soil test, it'll say it's basically 0. There's no nitrate in the soil in a healthy system. That's just not a preferred form.
Because I know the agronomists are out from it wasn't co-op, but it was a different company, and they wanted to know, like, how can you grow this without putting down fertilizer? We want to soil test this. So I says, go ahead and soil test it, but I'll tell you right now, it's going to be very low in N, because all you're doing is testing nitrates. And I says the phosphorus and the potassium would be way up, and this land hasn't had phosphorus, potassium put on it for, would have been before this year, 5 or 6 years, okay? So they go out there and they do the test, and he says, you come back, like, it's got 14 pounds of N. Like nitrates, like next to nothing, and it's growing a crop like this, right? But the phosphorus was up to 50 ppms. Like, it made it available, and that's the thing, through diversity, like, we've got lots of phos in our soil. Like, we got like 2,000 pounds down the first foot. We got 2,000 pounds of phosphorus. But it's not available to the plant, because phosphorus, your fertilizer is positively charged and calcium is negatively charged, and you bound it together. So we just got to make it available to the plant. So we do it through diversity. This makes it available to the plant. Why would we want to go spend a bunch of money on phosphorus when we got 2,000 pounds already? Especially if you're growing feed for cattle, this is an absolutely no-brainer to grow diversity. Why would you ever grow a monoculture for cattle? I just don't understand that whatsoever. Because even just the health with the cattle. Go ahead.
Can you expand a little bit? You said you want your nitrogen and amino acid form.
Yeah.
How is the amino acid getting there, being there? Where are you seeing that show up from?
There's,
Your manure is releasing an amino acid.
well, just through plant diversity and stuff, eh?
Just through forces.
Yeah, and just through plant diversity is kind of how it works,
like
eh?
some of the mechanisms are like rhizophagy. Rhizo means root, phagy means feeding. Rhizophagy or rhizophagy. One of the actual preferred forms of mineral uptake by the plant, like, we kind of have this is what we've been taught, green revolution, like kept that, soil's basically a chemistry set, that plants uptake nutrients out of soil solution. That's not actually how it works. That's part of the story. Plants will take up nutrients out of soil solution. Like, that's why we say we need a water-soluble, plant-available form of nutrient so the plant can uptake it through the soil solution. Sure, if there's no other mechanism left, because your soil is basically non-functioning, there's no life in the soil. But in a healthy, functioning soil, the reason why the plant pumps carbon out of the root, liquid carbon exudates to feed the soil biology, it's actually farming the life in the soil, and it attracts, just like you feed a cow and the cow sticks around, the plant feeds the life in the soil, the bacteria, the fungi, and all that, and that attracts those microbes to the root, the rhizos sheath, that sort of little interface between the root and the soil, and that's where all the magic happens. And what can happen is like a bacteria at the root tip, so that growing root tip of the plant is expanding, pushing through the soil, and there's spaces between the cells in the root, and the bacteria can actually get into the root, go into the plant, where the plant exudes these superoxides to bust the cell wall of the bacteria. And then guess what's inside the cell? In the protoplasm, amino acids, phosphorus, calcium, everything the plant needs. So what happens is it sucks the protoplasm out of the bacteria. The bacteria can rebuild its cell wall. I know this all sounds like kind of crazy talk, but this is actually, there's 50 years now of research, but we just haven't been learning this stuff in agriculture. Because our solution was to go buy a truckload of fertilizer. You don't need to know this stuff. You just need the Haber-Bosch process, right? This is actually probably the main mechanism of how plants uptake nutrients in a healthy, functioning system. That may not be how it works in most grainland now because it's not really functioning very well. But if you rebuild the soil health, this is probably one of the main ways that plants uptake nutrients. And nitrogen especially. Like, when we say amino acid or organic N, all we're saying is a carbon that's bonded to the nitrogen. That means organic, right? That's what an amino acid is. Carbon plus the nitrogen. And the plant uptakes that directly. And then the bacteria can exit the root, go back into the soil, do it all over again. It's a cycle. Pretty cool, eh? But not necessarily happening in most of our, especially grainlands now, croplands, because loss of function of those soils. So there's many ways, like, we tell this story like about plants uptake nutrients out of soil solution. It's about this much of a story that's about this big. And we tell this much like it's the whole story. This is what seems to be. We're just trying to tell the whole story. Is that little bit part of the story, that plants uptake nutrients out of soil solution and, the work you guys are? Absolutely. But it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, because like getting back to diversity, I was saying with the cattle, Like we got really healthy plants here. You can't find anything that's deficient or anything. We haven't used pesticides or fungicides, never have. But what we've really find is a health in the cattle. It's big time difference. Like since we've been feeding our calves after we wean them, these polycrops, we went from a 10% pull rate. We were treating 10% of the calves in the fall and having trouble with health. And since we started making this a big part of their diet, we're less than 1% pull. And the thing we changed was feeding them these polycrops, these multi-species diverse crops. It gives them gut health, right? Because here we're feeding the microbes in the soil. So we're converting, we're making phosphorus available and potassium and stuff. The same with the cattle. We're feeding the microbes in the rumen. It's the same thing. We're just not feeding them a monoculture. Like those cows when we're having trouble with them aborting. Well, yeah, we're feeding them corn, right? Almost straight corn and some straw and a little bit of hay. It doesn't work. You have issues. So that's a big thing, is that's some stuff we're missing is just the knockoff on the animal health and with the cows too.
So when you're feeding your polycrop mix, it's a silage going to the calves?
Yeah, it's silage too.
Any grain to that? Or
A little bit, no, we'll get to a little bit, but we don't start calving until June. So we'll wean in the 1st of December. Those calves are only 300 pounds or 400 pounds. A lot of them aren't ruminating yet. They're like a pig or whatever. So we give them a little bit of grain, but only a couple pounds. And that's just to keep them warm enough, because when it gets really cold, like 30 some below, they will freeze up and die. Like they're not big enough, and it's kind of a wetter ration. Now when we wean them, we really slowly put them onto silage. Like we give them hay, pretty well straight hay, and then slowly progress them over. But in their ration, they're getting like 40 different plants is what they're getting between all the different families and the varieties of the silage and the hay and we're feeding them alfalfa and they get a little bit of corn silage. That's not a big part of the calves' diet, but they do get some corn silage. And the polycrop would probably be half their diet or more. And I would like to get away with feeding no grain. If we lived in a different environment where it didn't get 35, 40 below, yeah, I would, but it just gets too cold. I just got to get a little more energy into them when they're so small. The bigger calves, 500-600 pounds, I think would be fine, but it's just a lot of the smaller calves. Yeah, go ahead.
So if you plant 15 species of crop into this, how in the actual field are you seeing 15 different species, or are you seeing, or does it vary year by year, do you think?
Yeah, it varies a little bit on different fields. It seems to be, different. And the big thing is the species in different plant families is a big thing we got to remember. We got to, like some people think they got a real diverse thing. They got 15 different things. They got 2 plant families. They got a grass and a legume, right? So you got to really look at plant families. And I got to stress that. You got to have different plant families. And if you don't know what a plant family a plant is in, just Google it on your phone. Just punch it in and say, what family is plantain in, and it'll show you, right? Plantaneous or whatever. So that's a big thing. And you need at least 4 plant families to have somewhat of a functioning system. That's what Dr. Christine Jones says. At least 4 plant families. They've done studies and tests. They can grow more biomass with 4 plant families growing together compared to a grass and a legume growing with 200 pounds of N. You'll grow more biomass with 4 plant families with no fertilizer on it compared to 2 plant families with 200 pounds of N. And they've proven that with 4. So the more plant families you can get, the better, right? The more diverse, the better. So we're running right now, the fields we'll go look at, the polycrop. We've got 9 different plant families in there and 14 different species right now.
do you determine your own mixes yourself?
Yeah. Determine, and I work with Imperial Seeds, like with Sean there, and Kevin Elmy. We kind of work together on that and work back and forth. So they'll blend whatever you need. They're good at that. So
Jump to that, let's just maybe jump to the
you want to?
example.
Okay, here's what's in our corn. We've got 0 synthetic fertilizer in the ground right now. We're planning on doing a full year pass tomorrow, actually. We wanted to do it before this. What's that?
Right now, growing right
Yeah.
Yeah, I took that picture
You'll
yesterday.
see this afternoon.
Yep.
The corn is way behind. This is a horrible corn year. It's probably the worst corn year since I've grown corn. Last year at this time, the corn was over 8 feet tall. This year it's this tall. Okay, it's not good. I was going to seed everything to polycrops, and we grew such a tremendous corn crop last year. I changed my mind. You're growing 24-ton corn, like you're excited, right? And you got lots of feed and stuff. So I should have stuck to my guns and just seeded polycrop and double crop. But who knows what the year's going to play out. But anyways, this is what we got growing in our corn, and that's only seeded in this picture. That's only seeded at 1.6 pounds to the acre. It's in there very lightly, and we waited till just for the corn come out of the ground, and then we come in with a no-till drill, and that's what we put in the ground. So we don't have bare ground anymore, right? So that's which really helped there. I just wish it was more of a normal corn year. This would have worked better than it actually did. What happening is the cover crop, some of that is cool season in there, and it's kind of taken off a little bit, you know, compared to the corn, but it's, yeah, well, yeah, it was just so cold, right? I don't have to tell most of you guys that. It's just not a corn year. It's
Did you say per pound the covers in the corn?
oh, 1.6 in this one. See, this one, I'm going to have to ask the chemical guys. They said on some of the other fields we put it a little bit heavier, but this field was into alfalfa last year, and we took it out, and we have a heck of a time trying to kill the alfalfa. Like, we've sprayed it with 2,4-D, dicamba, Roundup, and we can't take it out. So this spring we decided to go in with a burn off before the corn come out with dicamba. There's soybeans in there. There's soybeans, and they're dicamba resistant, so it wouldn't kill them. So I talked to the agronomists. I said, well, I got this cover crop. Should I seed it? They said, well, you got residual on dicamba is usually what, 7-10 days maybe, something like that. It just depends how heavy you put it on, right? So they said you're wasting your money, but so I thought, well, we've already got it in the drill. Now we come to this field, let's just put it on at 2/3 rate. You know, it's going to cost me $8 an acre. Maybe I'll throw money away. But look at what dicamba did. It didn't do it. It come up. Like, we seeded this a day after we sprayed it. Like, it shouldn't have let this stuff germinate. And I think most stuff did come up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's only 1.6 pounds. You know, I talked to Sean quite a bit. A lot of times you want to put on too many pounds, and a lot of times less is more. Like there's hardly any pounds on there. You know, so that's, you know, that's kind of what we learned from there. Like, that's a fodder beet there. Well, when we're out there, we'll look at it. That's an amaranth family. It's a totally different family. That's why I got it in there, but kind of deal. So we can go back to, okay, so now we're up to, yep, sorry.
1.6 pounds of what?
Well, what we just showed you, just kind of back up, of this mix,
Of the cover crop.
of the cover crop mix there, Dale.
Some of those in the mix there are like
Yeah.
1 of a pound
Yeah.
per acre of this or that.
Yeah, the clover is at 0.3 of a pound of each one.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
And what was the
Well, actually less, eh? Because that was at 2.3. There'd be like 0.1 of a pound of
Yeah.
clover in there.
And then, so what would be the seeding rate for the polycrop field?
The polycrop, it'd be, I tell you, we have that there, right here. A total, this is last year, another severely drought year, right? You know how last year, only difference here is we have, these are soybeans in here, just regular soybeans, and I've got forage peas in this year's only different. This is last year's crop, so it's this tall, right? That's no fertilizer for 5 years, no manure for 4. And we cut this in July 22nd. This picture was taken just when we were swathing it. It went 13.4 ton to the acre last year in a severe drought with 2.5 inches of rain. No synthetics at all. So then we took this off, and I went in with another, I tried to double crop, like just annual in the same year, you know, and not having a biannual in there. And we seeded it right after this, but it never germinated for 3 weeks. It just laid in the dust. There was nothing there. Finally, it did germinate, and we still got 4.5 ton out of it in the fall. So we got about 18 ton in one of the worst droughts we had, with no synthetic fertilizer and no spray.
Silage the second crop?
Yeah, we did silage. Like I say, it never germinated, it was late, and it was nothing to brag about, but it was another 4.5,
Manure the fall before?
Pardon?
Manure the fall before?
No, it would have been 3 years. 3 years before this. It had some manure. So yeah, just through plant, that's just all through plant diversity. Yeah. I guess I don't know what else to. Yeah, the oatsers.
The actual like rates.
Yeah,
I have it
I've
here.
got the actual pounds if you want it.
So
This year it's total of 92 pounds, but that's a total of oats and barley and flax. Like the flax in there was about this tall. Went to the neighbors, grow monoculture flax, it was that tall. Fertilizer and everything there. Oats was this tall, barley was this tall. Soybeans were about that tall. That wasn't a forage soybean, that was just a normal soybean. Phacelia was about that tall. Lots of bugs in there and stuff, so.
Yeah, so
Can
the
you show
rates.
us on that chart which families you're working with, if your oats and barley be the same family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oats grass, barley grass, peas legume, flax in its own family. It's a separate family. It's flax family, I just call it. Forage collard is a brassica. Sunflowers are daisy family. Phacelias from the Phacelia family. Chicories from the daisy family. Plantains from the Plantaneous family. Buckwheat is from its own family, the buckwheat family. Feed beets from the amaranth family, and clovers from the legume family.
So 40 pounds
Flax.
oats, 20 pounds barley, 25 pounds peas, pound and a half flax, 0.7 pounds forage collards, pound and a half sunflower, 0.35 Phacelia, 0.13 chicory, 0.25. So you get the point, just a
Yeah. Yeah.
sprinkle of all the rest.
Yeah, Phacelia is in the Borage family, I guess, eh? That's what it is, so. Yeah. Any questions about that? That was last year. Like I say, everything got up in kind of drought years here, but whatever, so.
Has grown a cover crop here? Oh, that's quite a few. That's great.
That's just, yeah.
We've gone through that.
Yeah, that's just a swath. Electra standing in the swath. They just kind of give you a reference what it is. We had the single swath. We couldn't swath. I've custom chopped silage for 30 years. I've never ever had plugged the center hole on a D60D swather. Going through a lower spot where there was a little bit of moisture. Like that hole is like this. And we've had trouble double swathing before because we deliver out the end, we put it in 60 feet. We got a big 900 horsepower forage harvester, so it takes lots, to keep her full. And here, running a 30-foot swath, and I could actually make it work at 6 miles an hour, and I couldn't believe it. I've been in 11-ton barley crops where I can go 12. I can just shove her all the way ahead and you'll just play with it with only 30 feet, right? And then when you put it in 60, but it's just amazing me. Like we're talking where you couldn't grow nothing. It's a drought. It's a disaster. Does that look like a disaster? We're just working with nature, That same thing. Okay, this was last year. Oh, sorry, Kevin. It's really wet. That stuff is really wet. We let it lay for 5 days, and it's still 70%. Be a nightmare trying to dry hay. You know what I mean? But you'd want to silage bale it or something. But of course, when we're trying to, it's not as bad in the summer, like in July. But when we get the second crop in October, yeah, it can lay there for 10 days and be 70. It just depends on the weather you get. But in the middle of July, of course, we got to lay in 30 or 60 feet, right? We got big swaths, right? If you went out with your hay bind and had in a smaller swath, it's a different deal, right? You'd dry it a lot faster. Yeah. Shelley?
We do cover crops and our son's grown them 3 times in Saskatchewan with cuts with a mower, and he would dry baled them, all of them, 5 crops.
Yeah. In the summertime more, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because there's seed, in May.
Yeah.
Mow them, and then rake and bale, so it's all
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah.
We never had swaths like that.
But it's so this was last year in the corn. I was going to quit growing corn because it was against my religion to grow monocultures, and I was just going to quit it because I didn't. So we went to growing beans in there last year. We tried soybeans and it worked very well. We Blaine and Michael were here last year, and like I say, it was 8 feet tall right now, and we left a test pass there with no soybeans in it at all, and you could see where there was no soybeans when we harvested it in October, plants were that much shorter. 2 feet shorter, 2 to 3 feet shorter than where there was no soybeans compared to where there were soybeans. It works in symbiosis with that, so well, with those forage soybeans. And those forage soybeans, that's a soybean growing down in Alabama. Like, we can't mature them here, and that's what you want. You want it to stay in the vegetative state, so it keeps pumping root exudates in the soil. Because you don't want it to go through summer solstice, and all it wants to do is set seed, and it quits pumping root exudates in the soil, and it just puts all its energy into making the seed. So you don't want something you would grow here to combine. You want
How tall did the forage?
6 feet tall. This stuff got to be 6 feet. It kind of fell over, right? I'll show you a picture next in the fall with Electra standing, but if I grabbed it and stood it up, it was that tall. And the leaf is younger there. Okay, here we go. Here's Electra. That's her head right there. Soybeans, you can see they're about up to her shoulders, but they've fallen over. Like, if she were to stand them up, if she were to stand them up, they'd be about that tall. They'd be over. She couldn't reach high enough to get them up.
Did you delay seeding the soybeans too?
Just before the corn come out, so not much. This is with 60 pounds of N. That's it. That field went 24 ton to the acre, 60 pounds of N. And so, yeah.
Have any problem in the silage pile by having a couple different things in there, like some people were worried about?
Like in the pile?
Yeah, some people were worried about mold or whatever.
No,
I believe at the time.
absolutely nothing. Little trouble with the harvester, with the beans. Mat that's fallen over. When I went with the rows, I would plug my fingers a little bit because there was no corn to clean it out. So if I chopped it the opposite way that it was seeded, the corn would keep the fingers clean in front of my knives. So I did have a little bit of issues. I talked to myself a few times there in the harvester, going the same way.
Is that why you don't have hairy vetch in there? Is for the chopper vet?
Yeah, well, some guys say it is a little harder, the vetch, on there. Those soybeans are Roundup ready and dicamba ready too, but I just had 2 species there. But like I say, last year we grew such a corn crop. I was seeding everything into polycrops. I was done with this, and then we grew this crop, and we seeded 1,000 acres of corn. But yeah, and it's year to year, right? So, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
You ever tried peas instead of soybeans?
In the corns? No, I haven't. I guess some guys don't do it because you want something that's Roundup ready, right? Because they want to be able to control the weeds if they have to, right? But peas would work in there too, right? So, and the beans don't crawl up on the corn, like they just want to fall over, eh? That's why you have a little more trouble harvesting because they don't vine up on the plant at all, right?
Turn it back to Clayton.
Okay, I guess we're kind of done with the crop stuff for now.
Yeah.
We'll just go to
let's
some.
talk about cows and grass.
Okay, let's talk about some cows and grass. This is just a snapshot of some of our heifers out calving. This is how we calve out in the grass. We don't start till June the 1st. We just kind of got done our second cycle now. We got about 100 different paddocks in our ranch, I guess. 22,000 acres is how big it would be. Calve about 1,800 cows. Breed about 2,500. with the heifers and stuff. We sell our bred heifers.
Just a tad louder.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, like I was saying, we calve about 1,800 cows is what we'll calve, and we breed 2,500. We breed our heifers, and we sell them as bred heifers. We start calving in 1st of June is when we start calving. Yeah, we don't tag any of our calves at birth unless we treat a calf or something, then we tag them. Heifers, we find they mother a lot better if you don't play with their calves when they're born. Just let them be cows. Yeah. Heifer comes, you're trying to tag her calf and you beat her off and she kind of runs away, and kind of not the way it works kind of in nature. So in the fall we'll tag them. They're in their breeding groups. They're bred in their breeding groups and they're weaned in their breeding groups, so we know what sires are off us. So we got that written on their tag what sires they are. And when they're weaned, they're kind of in their classmates. They're not mixed with the other cattle for about 30 days when we wean. So basically, these cows are wintered by St. Rose here. Then we haul them north. The Toots Aid's about 35 miles just before they calve in the middle of May. And then we'll wean them around first part of December. They'll come back here. Calves will come 5 days ahead of their mothers, so the cows settle down, and then we'll start them on high straight hay ration because they're not used to silage yet, and then we'll slowly put them over to their silage ration. And like I say, they're kept separate till they're put through the chute. These calves don't get any vaccinations at all until about New Year's. Got no black leg in them or nothing. What we do with the cows 3 weeks before calving, we usually prick check them all, sort the dry ones off, and sell them, because usually in the spring the price can be like twice as much for those cows per pound. Plus the cows usually gain 150 to 200 pounds over the winter. So that's why we don't sell them in the fall. We sell them in the spring. So we'll give these cows, IBR, and then we give them blackleg 3 weeks for the calve. So that's really high in their colostrum, the blackleg vaccine. And oh, you got this. I don't yell loud enough.
A lot of buzz in here.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying about the vaccine, that we vaccinate our cows 3 weeks before calving with blackleg and modified IBR. And we've got away with it for, I don't know how long have we done it like that, probably 13 years now. And we went through spells where neighbors are having blackleg wrecks up there, and as far as I know, we didn't lose anything to blackleg. It seems to be working for us anyways. I guess what else can I people find it strange because, you know, we're hauling the cows 35 miles. It would be perfect if the ranch is right on by St. Rose. We bought this feedlot down here in 15 just to grow the feed. We were buying all our feed before and we were grazing everything. And as the herd grew, we're just the freight on the feed. So we're hauling cows, but for every semi-load of cows you haul to the feed, you would have to haul 9 semi-loads of hay if you do the math. So with a herd our size, we're saving about $250,000 a year in freight costs by moving the cows to the feed, then moving the feed to the cows. So that's kind of why we did this. This land here is a little easier to farm. Up there, got a lot of rock, very poor drainage. This land here wouldn't be any higher of a class of land, but it's just easier to farm and manage here. So. This is just a picture the other day of one of our first calf heifers that just had a calf there. So, like I say, it's a hands-off deal. We just let them be cows. We don't intervene unless you have to. Heifers usually, I calved 330 heifers this year. I think we helped 3. That's normal for us, probably about 1% you'd have to help. Some years it's been less, Not too many years it's been more. So usually 99%. But we breed to true heifer bulls. They have 60-pound calves. You know, you'll get the odd maybe 80 or something. And the thing we like them, you know, sure the calves aren't quite as big in the fall, but they're alive, and those heifers mother to those little calves. You know, anyone with cows or heifers that have a big calf, what happens? They walk away from them. They don't have nothing to do with it because they hurt them, eh? So that's kind of one reason. And the thing is, these heifers will rebreed, not having, you know, a big calf. So they really rebreed. Good, you know, we can get, the heifers are on the best grass we have on the ranch. We've done a lot of bale grazing on this land at the heifers over the years where these heifers run. And a big thing on the cattle you really got to watch with us is the udders in them. If you want a calf like this, you've got to get those udders tucked up, small teats. It's a big work in progress here. I'd say udders are as important as fertility to us. We call more cows for udders and working on that than we would lose for fertility and open cows. Getting to be less and less as years gone on because we've really stressed that over the years. I think we've made leaps and bounds over the last 15 years, kind of with the udders on the cows. It gets better every year, so that's a big thing. And other people we talk to go on to calve on this green grass, you got too much milk, the udders don't hold up. Cows get 6-7 years old and their bags are ruined, eh? So that's one thing you really got to watch. So that's just day before yesterday. They just turned out in a new paddock. So good year, we're getting some grass here. Big thing is out checking these cows, not drive them calves over, you can't see them, eh? They're just, have to just crawl along. Unless you're riding a horse, it's not bad, but you're in a side-by-side. You can, yeah, you can drive them over, so you got to just kind of crawl around. So we kind of move, not daily. It depends on the paddock size, but, you know, week, maybe, be the longest. Maybe it's kind of, we're staying with these heifers, some of them 3 days or whatever, 4 days, but we got to keep moving. We got to watch. We can have scour issues about now when we calve. These cows, when it gets hot, they want to bunch up. We can have scour issues. All the cows are vaccinated for scours too, but so I guess something.
How big is the calving groups?
Calving groups vary. That's a good question. Calving groups, 500 and some cows in the biggest group. Smallest group would be 45 cows. It just kind of depends on where they are in the ranch. Calf survival and health is way better in the smaller herds. They have way more trouble with scours or whatever. I know it's against holistic management rules. You want you to run everything together, but we have trouble with health in the calves. Those big groups, when you get 500 cows and, you know, they'll have a half section, they want to just pile up all together. And we will have scour problems in those big groups. And like some of those small groups, you get 40 or 60 cows in there, you'll get over 100% some years, you know. You have a higher percentage of live calves in the smaller groups than you do the bigger groups. It's just kind of the way it is. They're in two different, they're actually in one group, but they're separate from the cows, eh? So we got two groups of heifers. There's 250 in this, 260 in this group, and there's 84 in another group, just because we want to breed them to different bulls. And all these 260 heifers, they'll be all kind of half sisters. They're all out of all the bulls that they're out of are all half brothers, half or full brothers. So that's why we kind of just run them in their breeding groups. And I just kind of want to know what the sires are. I don't worry about the cows like the udders. We can change or ruin an udder just with a bull. You know, ask the guys in the dairy industry a lot of times, and they'll agree with you. Bull is probably 75% of the udder, eh? So I can usually look at a cow without looking at her tag a lot of times and tell her what, if she's an Escalade or a Cash or whatever, just the structure of their udder. So we don't worry about the cows much. Like, we can take the very worst uddered cows we got and breed them in the right bulls, and their females will be our very best uddered females. We can do it the other way, take our very best uddered cows and breed them to the wrong bull, and 90% of their heifers will have bad udders. So the bulls seem to have more to do with it than the cows transferring it on that way. So
When you're selecting bulls for easy calving, are you looking at gestation period or actual just birth weight?
well, kind of everything. Guys, we buy our bulls from south of Swift Current, Flying K Ranch. When he weighs a calf, and they actually weigh him, we go by birth weight. We don't with our heifers. I think the heaviest bull we got in there be 70 pounds. Most of them are 60, eh? But he'll score them. He'll look at the calf when he's born, see what his shoulder's like. He's got a nice small little head. And he scores that calf when he's weighing them. So, you know, some calves might be 70 pounds, but might be built like a salt block, right? Another calf might be 80, but he's long and slender, eh? So that's kind of, so we've been having really good success with their bulls. So we've run their bulls for 36 years now with our cows. We went away from them for a while because we're in the custom silage business. We did lots, and we tried to patronize our customers that we're chopping silage for and bought some of their bulls. It was a wreck. Had to go back. So, you know, you got to work with a breeder. They got to tell you the truth, right? And when you're calving like this, you're not checking them all night. Like, you have a dead calf or a dead heifer, the guys are lying to you. Like, we bought a lot of bulls from people before. We're buying bulls that weren't over 70 pounds. We're getting 95-pound calves on them. Like, they're lying to you. Like, they're not telling you the truth, right? So you got to go back and work with some purebred breeder that's kind of trying to do what you're doing, and someone you can trust. You know, I think that's a big thing. It's kind of a relationship you have with each other. Eh? So.
When you select bulls to tighten up the udders on your heifer calves,
Yeah.
is he scoring the maternal, like the mother of that bull's udder?
Yeah, we have some. Yeah, he does too. But I won't buy a bull without looking at his mother and his sisters. I do a lot of homework that way. I go down there. I really don't have to go anymore because we got such a good relationship that he knows what I want. But he likes me to come anyways and have a look at him. Just, but we're on the same page. I could do it. Like, we've dealt, excuse me, since 1989 together, so it's been a long time.
I think we've been through most of it.
Yeah.
The thing we have left to talk about is this.
Okay, melted urea. This is kind of new to us. We're just going to actually be doing this tomorrow. So we're going to melt 4600. So we have black tanks. The water's been in there for a week now to get the temperature of the water up, because when you melt urea, it can freeze. And it's kind of an endothermic, I guess, endothermic reaction. So we get the water warm so it dissolves better. So 750 gallons of water you have, and you put 1 metric ton of 4600 in 750 gallons. That 1 metric ton displaces 250 gallons, so you get 1,000 gallons, which you'll spray 10 gallons to the acre, so you'd be putting 10 pounds of actual N on. And the thing with spraying foliar is there's kind of a controversy about this. People 3 to 7 times the efficiency out of it. Studies I've seen has been 4. So if you put on 10 pounds of N, it's like putting 40 pounds in the soil. That's what they say. So you're getting a lot of efficiency there. And another thing is you're not interfering with microbial signaling in the soil. Like, your microbes aren't getting lazy, because it's like fertilizing alfalfa, right? It won't nodulate, right, in the ground. So you spray it foliar, you're not interfering with your soil biology signaling, so you get free-fixing bacteria still happening in the soil. And then we put 1 liter of fish on. That's kind of a sticker. It's fish hydrolysate is what it is, ground up fish guts and stuff like that. And 2 liters of liquid humic acid in there to help it from burning and stuff, and it goes into the plant better there too. So And yeah, so we're going to try that. When we go look at the corn, it's got nothing on it right now. It hasn't had any synthetics. It's on it right now. In the cover crop, we won't spray it. We'll just leave it. This is just for the corn.
This is the first time doing this?
Yeah, it's first time for us, but I know other people that have done it yet. So, but this is our first time. Yeah.
So we just got one of those water tanks? Or?
No, we got, so we got two 2,500 gallon flat bottoms, and we got one 2,500 gallon cone tank, and that's where we do the mixing. So what we'll do is we'll trickle the urea in the top, and we will suck out of the bottom of the cone tank and push back in the side with a 3-inch pump. Takes about 20-25 minutes to do a batch. And that's enough for 2 sprayer loads. I think the custom guy says tank's 1,200 gallons.
So then is he streaming it on, or is it the fan nozzle?
Flat fan nozzle, I think, is what he says he's going to use. That's what the other guys were using. So
different than doing like liquid N 2800 where you want to dribble it on the soil. The nitrogen actually enters the plant through the leaf. You're feeding it through the leaf, not through the root. And the whole idea is to be able to back off on the end that goes down with the seed. You know, and Clayton is really backed off. Like we were debating whether he should go to 0 with the corn this year, and whatever, it's a discussion, but the idea is like, you know, think about what we currently do in prairie ag is we put down all the fertility with the seed, and we call that efficient, and it's efficient in the sense that it's a single pass, you get the whole job done, but it's actually a very inefficient way to get fertility to the seed. So if you put down 100 pounds of N, how much of that nitrogen do you think actually gets into the crop, that crop that year, of that 100 pounds?
50%?
Yeah, maybe on the high end.
yeah, they say 10 to 40.
It could, 30,
Yeah.
I use kind of roughly, about 30%. So it's like, you know, you pay for 100%, but you only get 30%, doesn't seem like a really good deal.
Yeah.
So the idea is to put down less with the seed, and then if the crop is looking hungry, then you do a foliar application, and it's actually much more efficient in the sense that if you're putting on 10 pounds of N per acre, that plant is getting 10 pounds of N per acre. If all of the urea is all of the is being applied to the canopy of the crop.
Yeah.
Being adaptive, right? Like on a dry year, maybe you would say, hey, water's the limiting factor, not nitrogen. There's no need to top it up. But on a good year, maybe you do 2 applications.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then when you put it in the soil, like a bunch fertilizer below the seed, your roots won't form rhizosheaths too, and that's where you got your free-fixing bacteria happen in these rhizosheaths, see? So you kind of knock that out of there too, and that's the thing, like Michael was saying, we have weaned our crop down. We went from 120 to 100 to 80 to 60. We probably should have went to 30 this year in the soil again, maybe. But it's so hard on the drills. That stuff just eats the drills and stuff. And we're busy calving, one less pass. And so I just thought I'd try it this way. And this year we got the cover crop in there too, But yeah, so it's.
Do you do tissue tests before to see if you need it?
Yeah, we did one yesterday. We got to send it away, so we don't. Yeah, we just send it away this morning, So. Yeah. A person should send a tissue test, right? Like
the sap testing is what we
Yeah, sap testing. Like the plants, well, you'll all have a look at them here pretty soon. You know, they look pretty green. They don't look like they're lacking nitrogen. These fields that we're going to go by had manure a couple years ago, so there's some manure there, and So there's a little bit there, but we'll see if the sap test comes back. Like I say, it's such a bad corn year too. It's hard to kind of judge it this year compared to last year.
There hasn't been a lab in Canada that did sap testing, but there's a new lab in Red Deer that Future Analytics. Melissa's her name that's running the lab there, and so now we have a lab that's relatively close. We can get samples through Canada Post, Priority Post, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
Express Post, and get them there, get the results. It'll show, if there's a deficiency, but it'll also show after you apply, you retest, and if, like, say it was showing low end, and then you did a foliar application, it should show an improvement, right? So this is a way to kind of test if the foliar is doing the job that you want it to do.
Yeah. No, we'll test it again. We'll spray here, and then I'll test it in a week or so. I'll retest.
It's really important to differentiate between tissue and sap. Totally different. So sap testing, we take the bottom leaves and the top leaves, and we're looking at the difference in nutrients
Between the old leaves and the new leaves, yeah.
totally
Okay.
different than tissue test.
Yeah. So I guess, is there any more questions? I guess Tatiana's got to do a little talk here too. Unless there's any more questions before we go to the field. After she's done her talk, we're going to run to the field and a couple spots and have a look and talk more out there. Go ahead.
So this is the first time I've heard about sap testing, but can it be done with like two tissue tests instead, or are those testing different things? Like having the tissue test of the old leaves and then tissue test of the new leaves and compare those? Or is this a different test entirely?
So the sap testing, is new to us too, so we're trying to wrap our head around it. But one of the main differences between a tissue test and sap test is the sap test can kind of give you in real time whether there's a deficiency, but with a tissue test, by the time there's a deficiency in the tissue, it's probably too late to really do anything about it that year. Whereas a sap test, you can get that, like instant information, boom, you're low in boron, right? And you know it, and you can do something during that growing year. So to me, that's probably the main difference. But you could probably do that with a tissue test. But I just don't know whether you'd get information that would be useful for you to do something about in that growing year. I think that would be the main difference.
How do you take a sap test?
You just, like, say with the corn that we sampled yesterday, we just take the bottom leaf, the old leaf, and then,
So you're still sending in the leaf?
Yeah, you're still sending, so it's still like, in the sense, like you're sending in the tissue, but then she extracts the sap from the leaf to test. How she does that, I don't know.
So the theory is that if there's a deficiency, the bottom leaf, the top leaf is going to be robbing from the bottom leaf. So you're looking at the difference from the top leaf analysis versus the bottom leaf. Whereas the tissue test just looks at the whole thing, you don't know what's happening. So
that'd be only good for some.
There should be a huge difference from this to this. That's the theory of it.
Yeah. The main issue I have is like, yesterday we're out there in a 100-acre field, whatever it is, and we went to one spot and took a few plants, right? A few leaves. Is that representative of the whole field? No, right? That's like most of the work she does for sap testing is for the greenhouses there at Olds, Alberta. They're growing peppers under glass there, right? There's acres and acres of red pepper kind of that, and they're testing that stuff every week. And that's fine for what they do, but like for broadacre, kind of prairie agriculture, just not sure exactly how it, but I think it's interesting still for what we're doing. What we're not sure about is you get the results and it's showing that, hey, there's a deficiency. What do you actually do about it at a, prairie field scale? We need maybe help with interpreting the numbers to figure out what to do. Nitrogen's the easy one. But the other stuff, like it's like boron or copper or whatever, that gets more complex.
And the other dilemma we face is that things grow really fast. So
Yeah.
you don't have time to sit around and think.
Gotta
about
get
this.
on it.
You gotta do it now or it's too late. Any more questions for Clayton?
I got a question. With this urea, could you also mix in some herbicide with the same stuff?
Yeah, they have done some, but you wouldn't want to use humic acid because it would cancel out the Roundup, eh?
It could potentially,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
you gotta,
You have to
maybe
change
not
the
all
formula,
herbicides,
yeah.
maybe like-
No humic in if you're going to put Roundup in there. You could put fulvic in there, but I don't think fulvic, you might get some burning going on with the urea, right? So you can change stuff a little bit.
Yeah. Like this, so you know, this melted urea, it's not a silver bullet. There are issues like, what if you need to get out there and do it and it rains for 2 weeks? Okay, you know, it's just practical, or you really shouldn't be putting it on in the heat of a hot day. You should do it in the morning or the evening, things like that. So there are still practical.
You know how long it can sit in the tank once it's mixed?
All for weeks. Yeah, for weeks.
It'll stay dissolved.
Most
As long as it's just urea.
And if you got it in the tank with the pump, just circulate it for a few minutes, because as long as it's good high quality urea, like 4600 and not a lot of impurities, like you can get some crappy Chinese urea that may not be so good. So you got to get the good stuff, but it's highly water soluble. So once it dissolves and it's in a black tank that's a bit warm, it'll stay dissolved for weeks.
You got to kind of wash the humic acid if it's in the powder form,
Don't want to put that in.
because it'll separate after a while.
But the urea is highly.
Yeah, but like the urea itself is good for a while.
Just to answer the question, we have one fellow right now who's putting his urea herbicide on with the urea. He's quite happy with that. You know, experiment a little bit. You're not going to find recommendations on it.
Yeah.
We've had horror stories with sludge in your sprayer tank, so that's not good. So experiment on a small scale. It does work.
Definitely screen it with a 100 mesh screen when you're pumping it into the sprayer, because there's always a little bit of phosphate that's in the conveyor that gets you your 46, so there's always little.
It's had no synthetics on it this year whatsoever. It did have some manure, I guess a year ago, and it was an alfalfa field. This is where we're trying to kill the alfalfa again, so we sprayed dicamba in here just when the same day we see the cover crop. My chemical specialist says you waste your money, won't even come out of the ground with dicamba. Well, it's here, isn't it? So we only seeded this at 1.6 pounds to the acre, the cover crop. Besides, the beans are in at 20 pounds, but all the rest stuff's only 1.6 pounds. So there's 8 different families I got here. The only difference from the small seeded stuff to the polycrop is I don't have any buckwheat in here. I just didn't put buckwheat in here just thinking that it's going to go to seed right away and wouldn't stay vegetative long enough. This is a 2850 heat unit corn. It's usually slow coming out of the gate here. It doesn't look like much, but it'll really finish good. It's just kind of the way it is. It's one of the poorer crops in the country. All the grain corn looks a lot better, but it'll surpass it big time. I guess we seeded the cover. Some of this corn took north. Some of the first stuff we seeded took it 3 weeks to come out of the ground this year. It was so cold. And it's not a corn year. This is probably the poorest corn crop we're growing, but we're going to get some heat. It wasn't seeded till June the 8th. This stuff has only been in for, I guess, 40 days now? Something like that. So it's got potential still to do something the rest of the year.
Some N with this? Is this the 60 pound?
None. There's no N here. There's nothing here.
Did you inoculate soybeans?
In furrow. In furrow. Is it nodulating, that one? Yeah.
Not this one, but...
Yeah, in furrow, because I wanted the peat to put it on the seed, but the co-op says I put on 2 pounds in furrow with the beans, see, so So maybe it's not going to work. I wanted to put it directly on the seed like shit, but I just couldn't get the inoculant. So we put it in furrow. I guess I don't know. I guess we can dig with the shovel if you want a little bit. You guys got any questions here? That's Facilia. Yeah.
So you dished it up last fall?
No, yeah, we sprayed it out last fall. It was so bad with moles. Yeah. It was so bad with moles and stuff like that.
So we just did a shovel here just to have a quick look. And you can see when you look sideways or into it this way, you can see how it kind of comes apart in plates. It kind of breaks like this. And if you notice, the roots are following the plates. They're running this way instead of this way. And so that's telling us that there is definitely compaction issues here and that the roots aren't working as well as they should. Now they're obviously working because they're way down here, but they're working very hard to get way down here. The good news is there's earthworms like crazy in here. I think this is the 5th one I've seen right here. So you know that's a really good sign.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you want to say?
And this is just like right at the road where, you know, the silage trucks are coming and going at the approach there, and you can see even more how like it's the horizontal layers there is, and the roots have a hard time busting through that.
This is
roots through it than I thought there would be, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely improving, right? Like it's like the only way to bust up this sort of compaction hard pan is a living root, right? You can try and go buy yourself a deep ripper, do all that, and you'll do some improvement, burning diesel fuel, but then you'll just have to repeat. But you get roots growing, and you know it's been a great marketing campaign for like tillage radish, and they're great, nothing wrong with tillage radish. But the thing that really busts up compaction is grass roots, those fibrous roots, super small, but there's millions of them, and they just sort of explore and bust up the hard pan. You got to have grasses to deal with compaction.
We probably got a little bit of plating too, because this is a headland.
Yeah, you're on. We're
and the silage trucks, they got to come out of here the first rounds and head to the approach, so there'll be a little bit. Yeah.
So 45 degrees, so it's almost 20 degrees C warmer than the air. So what's happening in the moisture right here? Where's it going?
Up.
Right. Is that useful? No. Now if there was salt down here, where would the salt stay? In the ground. Tomorrow, capillary reaction brings more water up. What will happen tomorrow if it's this temperature?
Same thing.
Same thing. We repeat for 100 years. What do we have here?
Salt.
Right. How do we solve it?
Cover ground.
There we go. Salinity's easy.
So this lighter sheeting rates for everything except the corn, they give reduced competition?
Yeah, that's was kind of the first time we tried it, so we just didn't know how hard to step into it, right? Because corn a lot of times doesn't like competition, but this is in a total different family, so I was hoping it would take it not as competition and work in symbiosis with it, eh? So.
You'll have you'll have ground cover in your cornfield.
Well, that's our thing we're after is ground cover. Yeah, like I say, the soybeans last year, they got to be this tall, then they fell over, and then like you'd stand them up and they're way over your head.
Do you ever do a test to figure out how many tons per acre for just your ground cover?
No, some guys have kind of said 3 or something, I've heard, but I never did an individual test. Yeah.
You should have brought your protein up, right? Beans?
Yeah, they're supposed to.
But it didn't.
Well, to tell you the truth, we tested it, and this is where you take feed tests with a grain of salt. The way I look at it is we tested, we had some, they didn't tell us, we didn't put any beans in that field because we wanted to take the alfalfa out because it was in there before. We had some volunteer. So we wanted to spray with dicamba. I says, well, no sense putting the beans in it. No one told me the beans I bought from were dicamba resistant, so I never put beans in it. And and we sprayed it there, and yeah, it wasn't.
They feed tested.
They feed tested, and that was 8. That was 8.5, just the monoculture corn, and with the soybeans in it, it was 6. I never had anything 6 in my life with corn.
Did you say you're 24 tons though?
Yeah, but so was that.
24?
It was a big, well, you know, 21. The best field is 24, but anywhere from 20 to 24. And I got, and I phoned him and I says, like, how are you measuring protein, eh? Because are you just measuring nitrates or amino acids or what? And he says, we kind of measure everything. So everyone else says they get 1 or 2% more. I got 1.5% less. I'm just being totally honest. Why? And it shouldn't have been. Like, it was soybeans in the vegetative state, but.
So your TDN on that stuff was it better?
It was similar. It seemed to be similar, but yet with a grain of salt. And I read the feed test more. They said my corn silage is 10% moisture. Well, you clowns can't get the moisture right. How are you ever going to get this right? Yeah. And they said it was 77% TDN. No, it's not 77% TDN. It's more like 67.
Like, what was the real test? Like, how did the
Cows do.
Yeah. How did the critters
Oh,
do?
super.
They loved it. Yeah.
Well, all the cows did unreal on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're mixing polycrop in.
How do you
with
make
that.
sense of that?
The cows just get one bucket in the, like we got big mixers, they're 14 1/4 mixers, eh? So they kind of just get one bucket to get some diversity, but half their ration is canola straw or oat hulls or something, eh? You know, we just try to cheapen the ration down, eh? So that's the thing with feed tests. I'm to the point, why do it? Like, you guys aren't accurate anyways. Like, it's just, you know.
Same thing with the soil.
And the cows are the proof. In a dairy, it's easy. They know the next day what's going on pretty well. These cows tell you. But we kind of, at the end of the winter, and like, Shauna gave me heck, you got the cows way too fat. Like, man, did you waste money? And we had them cut back, but they just did phenomenal. But we had a warmer winter too, right? So, you know, half of them were, yeah, so.
Did we go over like?
No, we haven't yet.
So let's.
How many people found more than one kind of plant out there?
What's this?
Facilities?
Yeah.
Right on.
Plantain.
Chicory? Which one?
Maybe.
I think that one's chicory.
Yeah. It's,
looks like a
yeah,
dandelion.
it's got the waggly leaves. That'd be a chicory, yeah. Kind of looks like a dandelion.
I had quite a few in that pile.
This would be a plantain I got here.
I'm pulling out his 1.6 pound.
Yeah, yeah.
That's okay. That's only $1.50 a pound. You're good.
Sunflower.
Yeah.
So what else? What else?
Plantain here. This is plantain.
It's got a rib in it. There's plantain there.
I got it here. This would be, where'd you get it? This is
Beet?
yeah, fodder beet. This is feed beets.
Has anybody
Amaranth family.
Collard?
Yeah, right here in my hand, right here.
Yeah.
Collard here.
Seed.
Forage collards.
I seed collards, but I never see them. But
Forage collard.
what I'm thinking is forage rape and a collard is very similar.
Yeah, they're both brassica in the same family.
It's pretty hard to.
Anyone find the flax?
Yeah, there was one.
There's one right over there. Flax is very mycorrhizal. You got to have that one in there. What's that? Yeah, Italian rye.
Nice.
He's got a flax
Nice
there.
green waxy leaves.
Yeah.
And look at that. Look at the root. All that soil sticking to it.
Got some rhizoschist going on there,
You
right?
don't wanna
Sticking
see
to
a
it.
bare root.
Yeah. And if you had a lot of nitrogen in there, you'd have very clean white roots. You don't want that.
This means that the plant and the biology are talking to each other, and the plant's giving the soil biology carbon, energy, and the biology is giving the plant nitrogen, phosphorus, whatever it's asking for, right? You know,
Yeah.
they make an exchange.
Remember that conventional guy across the road? We dug up his barley roots, and they were awesome. I asked him what he uses for fertilizer. Like, he fertilizes the tar out of it. He said that switched when using dry fertilizer. Any truth to that?
Versus
Anhydrous?
like anhydrous. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We see
I
it
think
on our farm. That's all we did. We switched from anhydrous to dry, and all of a sudden the bugs started coming back.
Yeah.
Really?
Just from not that cold shock.
Yeah, yeah.
The neighbor, he did it with his seagull shit on him for days on end. Nobody else had seagulls on their farm. We started and we got the seagulls coming to our place after a couple of years.
Flea beetles too, if you have hydrous on this
side of the
Yeah.
fence line. I'm not here. All the flea beetles will be on the other side.
We don't deal with flea beetles.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just one simple little thing. It's a little bit
Yeah.
more work, but
And the fertilizer we use always been granular, 4600, never using hydrous in our life. When we did.
You know, urea is, in my opinion, kind of and you know, that's of course the one we use the most, which is great. Like, what's the difference between urea and, say, anhydrous? Well, no, like
Carbon.
the actual chemistry of it, right? Like urea has a carbon on it. All other sources of nitrogen, no carbon. And like if you have an agronomist and he or she comes talks to you about nitrogen and what you should do for next year and all that, and that person doesn't talk to you about carbon, when they talk to you about nitrogen, you should find yourself
New
and
agronomist.
you know, the smart aleck reply I got was, well, that's fine, Mike. I get what you're saying, but where do I find one of those? Right? They're not, because it's just they don't have that training. So there you go. Now.
Yeah. Soon at the co-op here we will, because they're here getting the training. So
Yeah.
in St. Rose, everyone have to phone St. Rose to get the right answer.
What's the reason why carbon and nitrogen are so closely linked? It's because every living thing has a carbon-nitrogen ratio, and they'll maintain that, and we're no different. Like humans are 30 to 1 carbon and nitrogen, bacteria are 5 to 1, fungi are 10 to 1, protozoa are 30 to 1. So for example, when you put down, say, 100 pounds of N with the seed, the bacteria are like, hey, free food, so they get to work chewing up some of that nitrogen. And but every time they grab a nitrogen, they have to grab 5 carbons. Where do they get the carbon?
Soil.
From the soil.
Soil, yeah.
And it's not 2-year-old oat straw that they're grabbing
No.
first.
Yeah.
It's the blues.
It's the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's the aggregates they chew up first, because that's the candy, and then they chew up the organic matter, and then they work their way. So with high rates of N, you can actually see a loss of soil carbon. Which seems counterintuitive, but...
Do you know if somebody grazes a cornfield, how much carbon gets theoretically put back because you didn't remove it?
I don't know, like... Okay, but here's the thing is, I guess I don't know the answer to that, but most of the carbon that ends up becoming soil carbon, like stable soil carbon that becomes organic matter, does not come from the above ground biomass. It comes from the root exudates.
Yeah.
So
That's what
above
we're
ground biomass, super important
Yeah.
for ground cover and all that, but less important for actually building
Soil.
carbon.
That's what I couldn't wrap my head around.
Yeah.
You pulling all that silage off,
Yeah.
no synthetics or anything going in. I could see you grazing it, putting it in,
Right,
improving, but I
Yeah.
could not wrap my head around how you could pull that off.
Some manure. This land here has been silaged for 31 consecutive years. Everything goes off. Organic matter is 6 right beside us. That stuff's been combined for farmer. Straw has always been put back in the land, never taken off. 2.3. Side by side.
How often you put manure here?
Once every 5 years.
How much to put on?
30 ton an acre.
Because we have to file manure management.
Yeah, manure management. It's all a test, yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
In funky
Yeah.
business.
How do they limit how much manure you can put on?
Well, you do a test, right? You gotta test your manure and then you send it and then you tell them how much you can apply and you tell you too much. And then they'll come and audit you.
Yeah.
If you're over 60 ppm, you get into trouble.
Phosphorus.
Phosphorus, they tested this field and they tested and we're 60.3. They give me a talking to, but no fine, 0.3 over. I said, I got soil test from the co-op, says it's 48. And that's the thing, we get up where we get growing these polycrops and we're making phosphorus available. And I got places where I have manure for 5 years and it's 55. Because we're making phosphorus available. And these guys say, no, you can't put manure on it. Eh? They don't understand. Eh? So it's just, yeah, it gets to be a fight.
Send your cows 100 miles or so south and we'll put manure on ours.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice try.
Yeah.
Try, Ryan, I like it.
Yeah, I got lots of farmer neighbors that say, yeah, like if you run out of room, you can just spread it here. Like, how much can they give me? Well, I just thought I'd help you out, they say. But, yeah. But why don't we go up to that polycrop? I like that way better. This is kind of too monoculture for me, kind of.
Yep.
stuff, and I'm more excited about that.
Double your covers? Are you going to try to double your seeding rate on the covers?
I might a little bit more. I would probably go to like we kind of like 2.35 or something like that, eh? I might seed all the polycrops again, and I was going to do it last fall. I was done with corn, and we grew a big corn crop last year and grew a lot of feed, and I changed my mind. But I should have seeded everything with poly.
Corn where the competition is a negative to it, do you think? Or
When
do
it's
you,
little.
When it's
Yeah,
little?
yeah, when it's small.
Above it, this can grow underneath.
Yeah.
And so what is that? When did you plant this?
June 8th.
But at a stage or?
Oh, this just for the corn come out because I wanted to do a burn off.
Okay, so it's been in there since day one, more or less.
No, well, no 10. This is a cover's only. Let me think. Yeah, that's right. So about the 18th of June or something, we see this cover. And then we'll go up and we'll look at the polycrop. It's just up there, and it was seeded about exactly the same date because the planter was in this field that we're seeding the polycrop up there. It was just kind of dry enough. We kind of seeded it 4 days. We got rained out about 3:30 in the morning. We just had another 3 hours left, but where we walk in, it'll be a little bit earlier. But if you just look a few feet over, it's 4 days behind. Before you could really see the difference a couple weeks ago, but now they're kind of leveling out more. But I think we should go up there and look there. That's more interesting to me. Okay, this field was seeded actually the same day as that corn. We had the air drill over here. We're at the planter in that field. This was seeded June the 8th. So it's been in here for 39 days, I guess. This field has had no synthetic fertilizer for 12 years now. It's had one pass of manure 5 years ago. So that's what this has for fertility here.
Are you alternating corn and this cover crop?
This one here had corn on it last year for the first time. So it had, when I got it, 15, I seeded it to alfalfa until 2020, and then it was in covers for 3 years, like this, yeah. And then we put 40 pounds of N on it last year, so that's the only N it had last year with the corn, just 40 pounds of N, a little bit. And it was really dry last year in places it never germinated. It's kind of saline along the road there, but over kind of, well, most of the field in here, the corn was 12 feet tall or whatever, eh? So it did good. So I went back to this. So I was thinking of going, this is what I was talking about before, seeding stuff like this and double cropping it, and it'll run with the tons that corn will, right? So this stuff, it hasn't headed yet. It should double in height. Like this stuff should get to be this tall. It should, as long as something doesn't happen to it, right? So
what do you mean double crop it? Like you just seeded it again? Or?
Yeah, this year we're going to be a little bit late. Like last year them pictures are July 22nd, like 5 days later. We knocked it down and chopped it, and then I went right back in and I seeded this crop again.
You spray Roundup in between?
That one I did. Yeah. That one I did because I had a bunch of, on the other quarter, it had manure on it 3 years privately, and I had some quack grass that was growing in bunches, and it was starting to go on me. So we did do one pass. But we sowed it right behind like a day later, but it was awful dry last summer in the drought, and never it never germinated till the middle of August. And then we got, first cut was like 13.1 ton, and the second one was like 4.5, something like that. So it's still in a big drought, still did 17 ton in a drought.
Exact same blend? Would you do the oats barley with it, or would you do late season stuff?
Well,
Warm season stuff?
when I had fall rye here, because I showed you that picture in 2021, I don't know if you're there yet, Chris, that when we're standing in the warm season, so what's going to happen, we're probably going to be too late. We probably won't chop this until 10th of August or something like that. Probably getting a little late, so we're probably going to do a manure pass on here. It's been 5 years. And probably going to seed some triticale and hairy vetch and some sweet clover, and there's plantain and chicory in here already, so it'll regrow next year. And then go back and chop it in end of June, and then go back to a warm season. Yeah, so.
The peas inoculant, liquid, granular, you got huge nodules on them.
In furrow.
in furrow the same as?
Actually, the peas you asked me, actually the co-op over there, because, no, it was the beans. They actually put that on the seed liquid.
Okay.
But, yeah. And I know they're having trouble with the treater, and I was a little concerned it never did a job. Oh, it'll be fine. Well, we seen how fine it was. It's not making nodules. And here was in furrow here. I got mixed up. This was 2 pounds in furrow with the pea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the first year I've ever grown peas. I had soybeans in here before. Yeah, they had soybeans, but they're nodulating, right? So.
These are forage peas?
Yes, 4010s, yeah. Yeah, 4010s, yeah.
So does this field look nitrogen deficient to anyone? No? There's no nitrogen on it. Synthetic. Where's it coming from?
Out of the air.
Okay.
Yeah.
One possibility. How much
biology.
nitrogen is above us right now?
A lot.
Quite a bit, yeah. 38,000 pounds, I believe, per acre. But what else? Where else could it be coming from?
The neighbors that come out here with a floater at night.
Yeah. Yeah, neighbors are always wanting to help.
Any other places?
That's barley. Yeah, there's some oats.
The microbes swapping to fit.
Right.
Yeah.
We have life
Just
under
starting
the
to make
soil.
that taproot
That's the
go.
Yeah,
key.
yeah, just starting to go.
One of the biggest principles of regenerative agriculture is we don't have life happening underneath. None of this happens. And when you have this different colors of all these families, it's happening underneath. But look at the soil, you know, you can just tell it's alive.
Soil aggregates. So there's 9 different families here. There's 9 different total families here from totally different families. 14 species.
Are you making that own, making your own blend?
Yeah.
You buy the seed all separately and then mix it?
Well, I just work with Imperial Seeds there. Phone Sean and tell him what you want and he'll work with you. They got a good agronomist. They got Kevin Elmy there. He'll work with you. Yeah.
You know, maybe we haven't made the point of why diversity is important, but here, like, take a look. This sunflower is just sort of getting going, and you know, it's kind of surprising how small the root is compared to the plant, but you know, this tap root, by the time it's done now, come whatever, you know, freeze up, it's going to be down like doing good stuff, right? So every plant has a different type of root. You know, this is different than the root of the oats and barley, and they all do different jobs and explore different parts of the soil, looking for moisture and nutrients. That's why you want diversity, or part of the reason why you want diversity.
When you time harvest on here, what is your plant that you're looking at, or what are you looking at for time to harvest?
Well, before we're kind of jumping because we're trying to grow a double crop right away. Last year the oats was just kind of in the milk stage, and the barley was in the soft dough. But the blackbirds will come in here right away as soon as we get the barley, and they'll clean it pretty well. So we lose a lot of it. We tried something different. We got Maverick barley, was a forage barley we used before, but we went to AB Advantage. It's a 6-row. And the first year I come here, we sowed a nurse crop of barley with the alfalfa. And the blackbirds come in and they just ate the 2-row barley. It didn't make sense to me. They ate the cowboy because I had some 6-row feed and we run out and we finished with some of that cowboy and they just went after it. So that's why I tried 6-row again here to see if they don't want it as bad, you know, as good or whatever. But so we kind of use this as our protein source too. Like this stuff last year, it'll run like 16% protein. It's kind of what it'll run. Energy will be up. The TDN will be up where the corn is a lot of times. Yeah. But the inputs are seed. That's it.
Cut this with a swather or disc?
Swather. Yeah. We usually double swath and we're putting it in 60 feet. But this will get too rank. We won't be able to double swath. We'll just have to single swath it with a 35 and yeah. And like I say, last year in a few of the lower spots, there was a drought. We plugged that hole on a D60D swather, never plugged it. I've swathed irrigation barley, you know, that had end to no world and 13, 14 ton and never plugged a hole in it before. Yeah, so. But like I say, in another 2 weeks, this will be far more impressive than it is right now, because it's just starting to go now, right? Like in 2 weeks, I would hope we wouldn't be able to see each other when we're standing here right now. And it's, unless it gets hail or something wild like that, it's got enough moisture now to go. Like if it doesn't rain again, or it's going to get some heat, and then we go. Well, but those other pictures I showed you from last year, from 2023, there was no millet in there. There was just this. Yeah, the oats last year was up to my nose. It was this high. The barley was about up to my armpits. And the soybeans, field soybeans, were about up to here. And the flax was up to my waist, like I was saying. And my neighbor was growing monoculture flax. It never even made my knees. And this stuff was up to my waist, eh? Yeah, so. In the Visalia, yeah, so it's, when we're kind of planning this tour, we're trying to figure out when to do it. We picked this date because if we would have got to see it when we did, we would have been taking it by now, eh? So it's a little behind, but I think you can tell probably what it's going to be able to do with the finish here without heading, so.
Clayton, I've heard from a lot of producers who have issues with bears. Have you experienced that at all? Like lots of...
Like on my calves or on the crop? On the calves, yes.
On the crop.
Very little. We don't have a lot of bears right here, but in the corn a little bit along the river. They like, and they're buggers, they like to just roll in it. They just, like you took a roller out, they got these big areas that are rolled down. I've never seen them in the polycrop yet. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Eventually your goal is to not do corn anymore?
Well, I think this is a slam dunk no-brainer, this one. And it don't matter if it's drought or way too wet like this year. Like it never flooded, you know, it's just, and it's just got the nutritious, you know, like for the cattle's rumen, you know. I like it, you go out there with a 60-foot air drill and pound it in, and we're busy calving, so things are done fast, and yeah.
What is your organic matter in the soil here now?
This almost 6, I guess. Yeah, and then, like I say, the neighbors right there, it's 2.3. And this, like I say, right where we are, this is marginal land. This is the end of cropland. You go straight west here and you'd have to go away on the other side of Lake Dauphin, by Dauphin, hit farmland again. So it's just, it's saline. Get up in that corner, it's kind of really bad, but this is, they called this in the 80s, this is just crap land, it won't grow nothing. So. Yeah. So.
Makes you want to move to St. Rose?
Yeah. Yeah, we're in a little microwave climate here where we can grow high heat unit corn, and lots of guys combine corn. A lot of guys are amazed, you grow corn up St. Rose, the combine too. And these guys were hitting over, I think Rob was over 200 bushel the acre last year, 220, so that's pretty good for up here. But it's not real big. You don't go too far north, about 20 miles north, and it starts to run out. But kind of got the riding mountains right there. Got a lake there, right? Just kind of a little bit of a microwave climate here, I guess. Did you check the bricks on this stuff?
I haven't, no.
Maybe we'll grab a oats or something.
So have you grown like a triticale and then take that and then seed this?
Yeah, well, we'll go with more of the warm season. Maybe we'll have.
You got some bricks there, Blaine?
Yeah, the oats was 8. What the oats was.
Okay, it's just 8 now. So. Yeah, we'll go to more sorghums and stuff. Yeah, sorghum sedan grasses and stuff, and pearl millet. Some warm seasons, because we're not seeding them till end of June, 1st of July, eh?
What kind of oats?
Haymaker. Yeah, haymaker oats.
We're
What's the seeding rates, oats and barley? Yeah, well, I know exactly. It's 20 pounds of barley and 40 pounds of oats. Yeah. The whole thing was 92 pounds. That's everything, small seeds and everything. That's what we calibrated the drill at. Eh? Yeah.
So if you were to stand on the road and just sort of take in the day, it would get kind of hot, and you'd come out here into this nice green growth and it would be cooler. Why do you think that would be?
Perspiration.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like the water, when the plant uptakes water from the soil, and it moves through the plant and then out through the leaf and transpires, and when it changes from water, liquid water to water vapor, there's a cooling effect. That's why if you stand in a parking lot and then you go to a nice park, you know, green park, grass, it's cooler. But think about that times millions of acres of cropland, like we used to do summer fallow, right? Like there's research that showed when we quit doing summer fallow, the average daily temperature in the summer across Western Canada went down 1.5 degrees. It actually cooled because of all that bare ground, sunlight heating up, and just, you know, has consequences.
So that's all we need to do for global warming then. We're good.
Well, help? Yeah, exactly.
We're not doing it.
When did it rain last year?
Wet on the ground? Monday morning, 1.6 inches in just an hour. Monday morning, 48 hours ago.
How much rain have you had this year?
I don't know, lots. I didn't keep track. Yeah. You probably seen some wheat fields look pretty good. We got a neighbor that come in here, custom guy, the Hutterites rented all to them, but they hit her right on the nose. Like they got it in, they come in here and they seeded 7,000 acres in 6 days. Amazing what you can do with $10 million worth of equipment, 6 quad tracks, 3 big drills, and they hit her just perfect. The night they caught in and everyone said, it's a little bit of muddy because they went, that's got, I don't know if they can disclose it, how many pounds of fert would be on there? 500? Or of actual product, 400?
Around there.
Around 400 pounds of product over there, done with Lemkin discs, like our ball put in, and yeah, so they hit it, and the night they finished, it rained and never quit. We were hauling cows to the ranch, and we're going to start the next day. We just got done the night they finished, and then we got caught, right? So.
Do you think that manure management plan is going to switch to fertilizer management plan, and everybody's going to have to do it for their environmental farm plan?
Well, I can't see why not, but it's. Yeah, because they never monitor them whatsoever, eh? So, yeah.
No runoff there with that much.
No.
And then 2 inches of rain or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. So they hit it right. In a normal year, you can't do this. The Hutterites tried it. They went and they float before and they go with the lambkin, and she blows. Like if you hit a dry, you can't do that here. But they come up here and it looked pretty smart because they got away with it. It was wet and the crops look good, but yeah, if we went and bricks them, they'd be pretty low. Yeah. You see the buckwheat, it's starting to flower. That's why I didn't put it in the corn, because it flowers so early. I thought it might have a bunch of seeds there.
So if you're ever wondering about how to measure roughly biomass, whether it's something like this cover crop, and you're going to cut it, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to get, or pasture, and you don't need this fancy pasture stick that we have from Understanding Ag, even though it's very nice and it even gives you all of the principles and the rules to construct, yeah. So if you can't remember, it's all right there. Do not disturb, soil armor diversity. Anyways,
Does it come in blue? We can paint one for you, Tom.
but an easy way to kind of measure total biomass would be to just measure the height. In this case, you know, we're looking close to 3 feet. Call it 3 feet for easy math. And then you'd look at it and you'd go, does this look poor or good or excellent? And then you just apply a number. So poor equals 100 pounds. Good would be 200. Excellent would be 300. And of course you can kind of, you know, split the difference, or it could be above 300. But if, you know, say you called this excellent times 36 inches, you would go 36 times 300 would be total pounds of right now. Does that sound reasonable? Was that
10,800.
call it 10,000? 10,000 pounds here right now?
6
That's maybe a bit. Is that?
Is that dry matter you're saying?
Yeah, dry matter.
Yep.
Yep.
There's 6 bales here, Ryan?
Right now?
Maybe not.
There will be in a couple of weeks. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, more.
How many tons did you say you get off the farmer?
Last year got 13.1 silage tons. Times that by 0.41. Just got their phone.
So that's like, that'd be 6 or 8.
Times that by 0.41 and we'll put it into pounds. What is it?
8.6 tons.
Okay, times 8.6 tons times 2,000, that's small tons. Divided by 1,400. I'll give you how many bales I did last year.
Yeah, but so it probably is close to 10,000.
Yeah, so maybe we're not far off.
So, how many bales was that?
12.
1,500 would be 5.
Was that 6? Or, no, I did something wrong.
No, that was last year. No, I was just trying to figure like 13.1 times 0.41
Times 0.41
times
2,000
times 2,000
divided by
1,400.
Yeah, okay, there we go. 7 and 2/3.
Yeah, so that went 7 2/3 last year if a guy would have baled it. And I'm like I say, this is on course to outdo that. Like, I'm hoping 15 ton, but we'll see.
It's going to be close.
The big combine,
Maybe we're not far
maybe we'll get hailed. You know, I shouldn't say that, now the sucker's going to get hailed and flattened, but you know, knock on wood.
It's a nice simple way to,
Yeah. And like I say, so he said it's 3 feet tall, and it, you know, we're kind of getting a flag leaf, so double, so it should be 6. It should be, I'm thinking. And you know, the other thing, this stuff gets 6 feet tall and won't lodge. It'll be standing up. In that big crop, we did not have a lodge spot in it. It'll all be standing.
Why is that?
Unless you get a, I think, what is it? Is it calcium? Well, you got a root system, right? Feeding the plant's a big thing. It's just not fed through.
What about the sap and the cell structure?
You know, well, it's a lot stronger, eh?
And when you're fed with biology, a lot of your plants have more of a solid stem than a hollow, weaker stem.
Okay, yeah.
exactly.
That does a
Yeah, way stronger, eh? Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
like a grass pumped up on a high rate of synthetic N might have that nice dark color, and you think, oh, that's a healthy plant. It actually isn't a healthy plant, and the cells are watery and have a tendency to, you know, to lay down, lodge. They don't have the same cell wall strength that that this will have.
But
When you use this no-till.
not 10. No till, yeah. We did run a lambkin over it to smooth the molehills when it was alfalfa. They just kind of destroyed it, so we run a lambkin over it.
Are you still putting alfalfa in the whole rotation?
We took it out. That was the last half that went out last fall.
No more?
No more. Moles, this is so easy to dig in, and they just totally destroy the field. And we found alfalfa is not a good water user. In a drought, you get no production out of it. This stuff will pound the tons out whenever it's wet or whatever. And alfalfa, not enough diversity for me. I grow grass and an alfalfa, right? You put chicory and plantain in there, they'll last a little bit. Yeah, so you can put small burnet too to give you your 5th family. The seeds, small burnet, it's in the rose family. Yeah, yeah, it's come out of the southern state. Yeah, we're trying to get some, and Breault Seeds brought some up, but it was contaminated, so they rejected it, which was good. And yeah, it's very long lived too, like 20 years, and it's very nutritious for the cattle too, eh? It's more, they grow it more down in the US and stuff, but you should be adding small burnet to your perennial mixes to give your 5th family. Yeah, if you can get it.
We'll have small burnet next year.
Keep trying. It's got to make grades, right?
Yeah, it's right. Yeah. Well, that's good. Like Imperial Seeds has a lab right in their, right at their seed place, and they brought seed up from the US, and it was contaminated, and they caught it. Eh? They germ tested it and everything, and lucky they've got a lab there to catch this stuff, eh? Because it had what the?
Can't remember now.
What is it? Cama.
Oh, scentless chamomile?
Yeah. It was full of scentless chamomile.
Daisies.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is in the same family that's in, but you know, I've never grown it, but I'm kind of excited to get it, right? So I've done research on it, and people that have grown it, pretty excited.
You're putting that in established pasture?
In perennials, yeah.
Established perennials, and you're going to knife that in?
Well, that's another one that we've looked at. We seeded 5 years ago Festoleum, which is crossed with Italian ryegrass and tall fescue. How long is it supposed to live? 2 years, 3 years? And we're 5 years and it's going strong still. It's this tall, and I just thought it'd be dead some spring, but it's getting to be a little bit more. It's got sweet clover in it, and some chicory is alive. But the thing is, when we seeded it in a mixture like this, just as one of the plants. It was seeded at 1 pound to the acre. That's it. Now we've let it go to seed once and kind of grazed it later, but
it's incredible.
Michael's seen it. It's just a massive plant still, and it's just going strong. We're a 1 pass over it grazing. We're just a 1 pass grazing over on it, eh? So, but we got too much bare ground going on there right now. Got these big massive plants, and we have some chicory still going after 5 years. The plantain is kind of gone, and we got sweet clover. We did have red clover, but the crickets ate it so bad, and it's had grasshoppers so bad there, and so dry like last year. I don't know if we got much over 2 inches there last year. And they chewed it to the dirt, this stuff, the grasshoppers, and it's still going after 5 years.
Yeah, really hard to explain.
Yeah, so.
But you know, so the thought was just terminate it.
Yeah, spray it out.
Spray it out, and
so that,
don't do it.
Yeah.
Let's just try to get something else in there.
Well, it started raining on us this spring, so it didn't happen. We couldn't get into it, and I wasn't going to spray it until after I seeded it, even, because I didn't want to get caught spraying it and have nothing. Because we got 700 yearlings up there. What the heck are we going to feed them? We'd spray out all this land, eh? So I wanted to kind of do it after, but talked to Dr. Christine Jones, and she says you got to get rid of the grass if you want to establish something. But she's kind of a grass hater, it seems like, lately.
There's an outfit in Australia called the Soil Key system.
Mm-hmm. I think it kind of tills a little bit. Yeah.
A small strip.
Yeah.
10-inch, 12-inch spacing.
Yeah, I seen that.
I built a Franken cedar. This is the summer I'm going to see if I can get this established in hired pasture as well as some perennial stuff. I haven't got it to the field yet.
I'll get it there. Like, we did go up there on the old hay fields, and we went with our no-till drill and we put legumes in it. Tried to introduce legumes to grasses, and we had a total failure. But what happens, we put it in to germinate it, and it was dry. We got enough to germinate it, and then the grasshoppers just ate it all. Like, they just killed those little seedlings.
I think a lot of people can see rows and think it's a success, but if it doesn't make it that first winter...
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't even make the summer. They ate it, but...
We put alfalfa, like a special kind of alfalfa, like Altamira alfalfa and Sicer in the salt mineral, and that's the only way I've so far been able to influence.
Yeah, okay. Put it in the lake. Yeah, put it in the... But yeah, I thought maybe and people said you can You can't really introduce a grass to a grass. It doesn't work very good, but some people are saying you could introduce a legume to a grass because it's a different family.
Works if you disc it in.
Yeah.
The grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done it.
With a disc, is that, yeah.
Like total black, or just skim, or what do you mean? You disked it in, just skim the disc? Disc drill. Oh, disc drill.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, really? You graze it off first, and then you seed it. I've only got diverse mix like this with hairy vetch in it. I've only got it to come up this high in the after grazing. I haven't had really good success with it. So second year is seeded last year. Oh, in the fall.
Hmm. It's slow, eh? This stuff's kind of funny. You see just the odd beard just start poking through here on the flag leaf, and that's what Shelley was saying this morning. People always trying to figure out where we got seeded, and they'll drive by here another 5 or 6 days. Oh, it's a barley field, and then all of a sudden the oats just passes it. Well, it's an oat field. Well, I thought that sucker was a barley field, eh? And it just, you know, because the barley will get ahead of it. They'll take off, and then the oats will pass it, and then the other stuff will follow it, and they're all competing for sunlight. They just keep going. Eh?
It'll be a
Yeah,
sunflower.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, and then it'll be a sunflower. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's, oh, look at that weed problem he's got going on out there. Yeah, yeah, bad farmer.
They say you're doing a service for your community, though. If they're so busy talking about you and the coffee, they leave everyone else alone.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Eh? Yeah, 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 that's right. $52 for this. Total seed cost $52. Corn about 120. Time you put the soybeans in that cover seeded lot lighter there. Soybeans, forage soybeans are very expensive. Like forage soybeans, well, these companies want $100 a unit. I got it at the co-op. They give me a pretty good deal, I think, after around $80. And potassium inoculate is 90, so it's not cheap. But if you're putting on half a unit, right, it all adds up. Eh? That's why I like this. Cheaper seed costs and way more resilient than that corn. Yeah, it's
No fertilizer on here, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Zero fertilizer for 12 years. Well, I was just saying, except last year we grew corn on here and we just put 40 pounds in for the corn crop. That was the only time it's had synthetic fertilizer in, yeah, 10 years, I guess it would be 15, yeah.
And it's on a 5-year manure rotation.
Yeah, yeah, it was done 5 years ago, so we'll take this, and I think we're going to be too late to seed another one right away, so we'll do a manure application here, and then we'll come in with probably triticale and hairy vetch and some sweet clover, and chicory and plantain are in here too, so they'll survive the winter. So we should wind up with our 4 plant families coming up in the spring.
You
So
just look at the stubble after silaging to determine if you're going to need to put a Roundup shot before you start the next.
yeah, probably with yeah, that's more or less. I just kind of see what's coming there.
So you
Make a decision.
perennial grass, like quackgrass or other.
Yeah, we do. We're just talking about Chris asked me over there about spraying, and there was crack grass from manure 3-4 years ago in those patches, and they like to grow.
Yeah.
And we hit that. We hit it with Roundup. That's probably our only thing.
In the fall or spring?
This was done in the spring. We burnt this off in the spring. This over here, probably there was some alfalfa growing here. That's kind of why I sprayed it. But I didn't use dicamba up here, just because I didn't want to interfere with any of this. So there was patches of alfalfa left, and then over there was just some patches of quackgrass. Eh? So, and then
Everything you grow is pretty much for silage.
everything is silage. Yeah, everything is chop. It's all cattle feed. Yeah, here. What was I going to say? Yeah, over there, the chicory from last year, the Roundup didn't do nothing to it. It just kept going. It's over there. It's on the next quarter, but this is all one field. It's sticking up. It's about this tall right now from last year. See the plants sticking up. Yeah. So it never took it out. And actually we get forage collards to winter here. They'll overwinter. They're still alive the next year in the way they grow. So it must be the snow cover or something we're getting. What's that?
You can't do that here, I was told.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I'll have to tell it that. You can't do that here. So, and it seemed to survive the Roundup too. Like a few of those plants we looked at. The collards, it didn't seem to do much to them.
If it survives the winter, you could combine it because I think it sets seed in the year too.
Yeah, I think so, so. But I don't own a combine, so.
My thinking is, and the seed guys have to start thinking about this. You know, so you go and you buy your nice cover crop mix, but every one of these species is growing monoculture somewhere in another part of the world, where they should be growing all this together and harvest it all together and sell it all together.
I think we talked about that, Sean, eh? So,
well, you can
trying to get.
Play with that.
Yeah.
What's the standards, like any sort of standard?
Change the rules.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, I'd be.
Yeah, because I've talked to Sean at Imperial Seeds about that too, eh? To try and do that. I'm sure he's working on it. Yeah.
But
I'm
you know,
sure.
there's good reasons to do that, just from soil health perspective.
Yeah. And I've thought of coming out here and letting some of it go to full maturity and just get the neighbor to come over with his combine and just combine it. Because the seed will have the right core microbiome, right? Because it's growing with regenerative practices, right?
In your climate.
In our climate. So it would be far better. All this seed come from high synthetics, pesticides, fungicide environment. If it can come here and do this, what do you think this can do when it was originally growing here, right?
You're going to put Sean out of a job.
Yeah. No.
Just have a different job.
Yeah, a different job. Yeah.
A better job.
Marketing
Yeah.
Clayton's seed.
Yeah. Yeah.